She worked when the building slept. When the elevators stopped humming and the city outside softened into distant lights and rain-slick reflections, Mara moved quietly through the corridors with her cleaning cart, the wheels squeaking no matter how carefully she pushed them. She hated that sound. It made her feel like she didn't belong, like the building itself could hear her struggling to survive. The CEO's office was always last. Biggest room, heaviest door. She took a breath before entering, tugged on her yellow gloves, and reminded herself to be invisible. The office smelled of polished wood, expensive cologne, and late-night coffee. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked down on a world that never noticed her. She wiped fingerprints from the massive desk, straightened the keyboard, and aligned the files exactly the way she'd learned. Nothing questioned. Every move was careful, practiced, born from fear of making a mistake she couldn't afford. Her back ached, her feet burned, and her thoughts drifted, as they always did, to Lily at home, asleep on the couch, waiting for her mother to return from another night shift. From her pocket, Mara pulled out a small folded pink paper. She hesitated, her chest tightening. Lily had written it earlier that evening, sitting at the kitchen table with her tongue caught between her teeth, drawing hearts in the corners. "Please, Mommy," she'd begged. "Just leave it." Mara had tried to say no. This job was everything. One wrong move, one complaint, and they'd be back to choosing between rent and groceries. Her hands shook as she unfolded the letter, just enough to see the uneven pencil lines. Innocent, hopeful, dangerous. She glanced at the door, then at the desk. Slowly, almost apologetically, she placed the letter on the corner, small and fragile, against the weight of power and money that surrounded it. Her heart pounded as if she'd committed a crime. She finished cleaning faster than usual, wiping away the last traces of herself, except for that one quiet act of love. Before leaving, she paused at the doorway, eyes lingering on the letter. One last time. "Please," she whispered to no one, then turned off the light and disappeared into the night. Asterisk to office greeted Adrian Cole with its usual silence just after dawn. The city beyond the windows was waking, washed in pale blue light, and the building felt calm in the way only power does when it knows it is in control. Adrian set his coat down, loosened his tie, and moved toward his desk, already thinking about numbers, contracts, and decisions that would ripple through thousands of lives without ever touching his own. Then he stopped. A small pink square sat on the corner of his desk, painfully out of place against the dark wood and sleek black screens. For a brief moment, irritation flared. His office was private, controlled. No one left things here. He picked up the paper between two fingers, intending to summon security, but the childish folds gave him pause. He unfolded it slowly, as if it might disappear. The handwriting was uneven, letters pressing too hard in some places, floating in others. As he read, something unfamiliar tightened in his chest. "Dear Sir," it began. "My mommy cleans your office at night. She is very tired, but she smiles for me." Adrian's jaw clenched. He kept reading. "Please don't fire her. She works very hard. I think you are important, so maybe you can help." The words blurred for a second. He blinked hard, annoyed at himself. "Bye." The time he reached the last line, "She is my hero," the room felt smaller. The walls lined with awards and books suddenly seemed useless. Memories he had buried for decades rose without permission. His own mother coming home late, hands cracked. Smile forced, telling him everything was fine. He had forgotten how heavy that kind of love was, how invisible. Adrian lowered himself into his chair, the letter still in his hands. For the first time in years, he didn't turn on his computer. He stared out the window instead, watching people hurry through the streets below. Realizing how many lives passed through his building without ever passing through his mind, the pink letter rested on his desk, no longer an intrusion, but a quiet accusation, an invitation he wasn't sure he could ignore. Asterisk that night. The office lights were dim, but they weren't off. Mara noticed it the moment she stepped out of the elevator. Her stomach tightened. The COA's floor was never lit this late. She pushed her cart forward anyway, telling herself it was nothing, that she was imagining things because guilt had been sitting on her chest all day. Still, her hands felt colder as she reached for the office door. It was unlocked. When she stepped inside, she saw him. Adrian Cole stood near the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, the city glowing behind him. For a second, Mara couldn't breathe. The letter flashed in her mind like a siren. Her knees weakened, and she instinctively took a step back, already rehearsing apologies she hadn't planned to make. I'm sorry," she blurted out before he even turned around. "I didn't mean to leave anything. It won't happen again. Please don't fire me." He turned then, surprised by the fear in her voice. She kept talking, words spilling out in a rush, confessing about the letter, about her daughter, about how tired she was and how wrong it had been. Her eyes burned as she waited for judgment. bracing herself for the end of the only stability she had left. Adrian didn't interrupt. He listened, really listened, hands clasped in front of him, the pink letter folded carefully in his palm. When she finally ran out of words, the silence felt unbearable. Then, he spoke, quietly. He said her daughter had written something beautiful. He said it had reminded him of things he'd forgotten. He said thank you. Mara froze. The tears came. Before she could stop them, years of swallowed fear, of being unseen, of pretending strength when she had none. She tried to wipe her face with her sleeve, embarrassed, but Adrian handed her a clean handkerchief without a word. In that moment, standing in a room meant for power. Mara felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. She felt seen. The days that followed carried a quiet magic. Mara arrived at the office in daylight for the first time, her uniform replaced by simple, neat clothes that made her feel both proud and out of place. The cleaning was lighter now, almost symbolic, as if every sweep and polish carried away the shadows of her past struggles. Lily's laughter echoed through the hallways when she tagged along, holding Mara's hand tightly. Today, she wasn't invisible. Today, she was part of something bigger. Adrian noticed the change immediately. The office felt warmer with Mara around in the daytime, her presence softening the hard edges he had long surrounded himself with. He found himself lingering after meetings, not because of reports or deals, but because Mara and Lily's quiet, genuine world reminded him of something he had forgotten: connection. When Lily ran up to him shyly, tugging at his sleeve, he knelt down to meet her gaze, his usual composure replaced by something gentle and real. "You're very brave," he told her, and her shy smile lit up the room. Mara watched from across the office, stunned. The world she had always felt barred from the sleek glass walls, the polished floors. The hushed conversations about growth and vision was opening just enough for her to step inside. She could almost feel it bending toward her, accommodating her existence, making space for her family. She realized that courage, patience, and a little kindness had unlocked doors she never thought she could cross. By evening, as the office emptied and the sun dipped low, Mara stayed behind for a moment. Not out of obligation, but because she wanted to savor the transformation. Everything felt lighter, now her burdens, her fears, even Adrian's once intimidating presence. She knew this wasn't just about jobs or promotions. It was about belonging, about being seen. And for the first time in a long while, Mara believed that maybe, just maybe, they all belonged together in this small, fragile, beautiful new world they had started to build. Asterisk. Months had passed, yet the memory of their first uncertain days lingered like a quiet hum beneath the rhythm of their new lives. Mara walked into the office one final time, not because she had to, but because she wanted to honor what had remained. Air smelled faintly of polished wood and coffee, familiar and comforting. She moved slowly, almost ceremoniously, wiping surfaces and arranging pens as if each gesture could capture the gratitude and hope that had grown inside her. On Adrian's desk, she left a letter, this one written in her own hand, carefully and deliberately. The ink glimmered softly in the fading sunlight. It was simple, yet profound. A thank you to the man who had not only seen her work, but had seen her and Lily as people worthy of care, respect, and opportunity. She didn't need grand words. The honesty in her handwriting was enough to carry her heart. Adrian arrived the next morning, unaware that Mara had left. He opened the office door and paused, the letter catching his eye. He picked it up, feeling the weight of it, and as he read, a soft, unguarded smile spread across his face. Outside, the city buzzed with its usual clamor, but somewhere below, Lily's laughter rang out, a pure, unrestrained sound that spoke of safety, joy, and belonging. Adrian leaned back in his chair, the letter held loosely in his hands, and realized that success had finally found its meaning. It wasn't the deals or the accolades. It was these small, human connections that made everything worthwhile. Mara and Lily had reminded him that a single act, one note, one gesture, one moment of sing could transform lives. And in doing so, they had transformed him, too. The city lights shimmered through the windows, casting long, gentle reflections. Across the polished floor, somewhere in that light, a little girl laughed again. And Adrian let himself, truly hope, that this was just the beginning of a life where love and gratitude could flourish side by side with ambition. One small letter had done more than change a life. It had healed too.